Hi, this is Catherine Bourne. I'm at the Los Alamos Makerspace. The talk, ChatGPT and the Human Resistance. And this is, again, Los Alamos Makers related to Burning Man and the talk I did there. So a little explaining. Okay, I was asked, what's your background? And I talked a little bit about doing AI and having an AI in Big Pharma and an AI outside of work, and working with my own AI team of developers. There's about four of them, and not to mention a couple extra people. Okay, but I'll do more about my qualifications and experience, and what I'm working on will kind of hopefully answer that question. But let's start with the point I started with at the Burning Man talk, when Sam Altman said the AI is smarter than me. He's also said things like the AI is going to be smarter than my kids when he refers to artificial general intelligence. And just, my first bold statement is how preposterous that is. He is welcome to think that the AI, that ChatGPT, is smarter than him. It is certainly not smarter than me, and certainly not smarter than my children. The idea that it can make these atrocious mistakes, can't think outside the box, has all the bad habits of the past, which we'll discuss, and the idea that that's his idea of what really smart is. This is a person who has $40 billion that he raised this quarter and doesn't have any real ideas about what to do to reduce world hunger. And he's like, oh, do you think ChatGPT can reduce world hunger? He's like, I don't know if it can. And it's like, you just raised $40 billion. With $3 billion, we could do a whole lot towards reducing global hunger, especially hunger in the global south. So anyway, preposterous. So anyway, to start at the beginning, ChatGPT and the Human Resistance is the title of this talk, and somebody said, what does that title even mean? What do we mean by the human resistance, ChatGPT and the human resistance? And so my story, to go back a little bit, is that I've been in technology for 25 years, been in healthcare for about 10, and when and I'd been working in AI for years before ChatGPT got big, but then it got huge in 2023, and it just, for me, solved so many problems in my career, things I'd been wanting to do, a level of being productive that I was aspiring for, and I just, just went crazy for the thing. I was using ChatGPT starting in January 2023 for hours and hours a day, and it just changed my life drastically. And then I went around the world, not literally, more really like America, and but talking to every stranger I met about what did they think of ChatGPT? What is it doing for you? What do you think? And in the spirit of, it's great, and you need to go along if you're going to survive. You need to go along if you're going to keep your job, and concerned. And then what was interesting is my journey is that after listening for 2 years to people talk about their concerns, I suddenly, I just didn't feel as good about it. I was very concerned. One joke I always have as a test is that if you ever, talk to a beautiful, young, attractive server or bartender or someone at a restaurant who works there, and you say, what do you think of ChatGPT? It's supposed to be the young people, right? It's supposed to be the technology for the youth, and they hate it. They absolutely hate it. And the question you have to ask is, why? Why do they hate it? I don't want to talk about my kids because they don't want me talking about them, but say hypothetically a 17-year-old teenager's not too thrilled with it, and again, these were supposed to be the young people that always lead the way, and suddenly we've got a generation like Gen Z is just hating this thing. By the way, it's September 2025. Okay, so anyway, so I've created this series to kind of talk about, to be centered, even though I'm an enthusiast, to be centered on people who are struggling, who hate it, who feel like it's stolen their future. I'm also here to advocate for all the people who are losing their jobs, everything that's happened to artists in particular. I'll, in other talks, talk about Chicago Art Magazine and Starve Magazine, and advocacy for artists as we constantly work to lower wages and to, not we work to not compensate artists. And I always say, and I'll say in another talk, that ChatGPT and DALL-E in particular was the greatest art theft in the history of humankind. Okay, but let's get a little academic for a second. I don't want to go on for too long. There's a couple of pages. Okay, the alignment problem. What is the alignment problem? There's a book called The Alignment Problem. I recommend you read it, or some of it. But the alignment problem, I think, is named after this concept that's called the alignment problem. And it's been something that they've been talking about in machine learning for many, many years. I believe even from the 50s. The idea of the alignment problem is that if you train an AI or you train machine learning on the data of a problematic world, those machine learning solutions will be equally problematic. So if you've got a loan system, a bank loan system that discriminates against black people, and then you turn it into a machine learning algorithm, it will discriminate against black people. You will have medicines that don't work well on people of color. You'll have pulse oximeters currently don't work well. There's been a scandal with HP webcams that don't pick up darker skin, and a bunch of problems that have happened from a lack of diversity and the isms, the racism, the sexism, there was a Amazon machine learning algorithm that rejected all female applicants at Amazon, and I don't think they did too much to fix it. I don't think they give a shit personally. When you look at the alignment problem, you look at a world that ignores refugees, the poorest billion people. They don't care if they don't use their products. If you have 90% of the population, you've got a very successful product, so they don't care. So when the alignment problem is essentially about putting an AI layer on top of garbage, and we're working on this at work with bad data, with filthy data, with contaminated data, with problematic data, with low quality data, whatever you want to call it, and you take this data and then you train the AI, which I'm not going to get into in this talk, what it means to train the AI. You can look that up, but it's putting a layer of AI on top of garbage, and so it's just going to be garbage. Okay. So what my version of the alignment problem would be that it's trained not to question income inequality. So that's simple. Okay. Next point. The AI will be good at what you train it and you fund it to be good at. So there's no person on this planet who can play chess and beat a computer at this point. We have crossed that threshold, and now it's just not possible. Similarly, if you watch the Netflix documentary called Unknown: Killer Robots, it talks about in a dogfight with two airplanes, and you've got an AI pilot and you've got a human pilot, and they're racing towards each other. The AI pilot is always going to win because it's not afraid to die. And so the human pilot won't take that risk, but the AI pilot will just go boom and just take a risk, and it doesn't care. So just like how a human can't win at chess, a human soldier can no longer win at war. And what I talked about at Burning Man, that was a little bit of an emotional moment, is that we are looking at a future where there's a thing called the kill chain, and it is conceptually possible in the future, and especially with deregulation of AI, that there could be a massacre and hundreds of people dying, and no one is held accountable because the AI made the decision to kill those people. And even if you tried to hold a company accountable, they could just say it was a mistake, it was a flaw, it was a software bug, and nobody's going to go to jail, and there's nothing you can do. So I just want to say how serious some of these concerns are. And again, this is centered on people who are concerned. However, we are making our AI that we believe can do better. Burning Man. Interesting. I did speak at Burning Man on Friday, and I was a little bit of a peanut gallery. Some of the themes that came up at Burning Man 2025, I guess the leader of Burning Man, who I can't quite figure out who that was, spoke at the same time as me. Hold on 1 second. So the founder of Burning Man spoke at the same time as me. And he said something like, if only these tech oligarchs took mushrooms, they would see the light. And then the guy from Asana that I was a little bit of the peanut gallery with, he was kind of talking about hallucinogens, and there is this feeling, I think, among the crowd of like, if drugs were the answer, Elon Musk, nobody thinks Elon Musk hasn't done enough drugs, like nobody's like, oh, I wish that guy would do a little more ketamine. This idea that these tech oligarchs are going to do some drugs, these people have been doing tons of drugs for tons of years. Like when I was at Burning Man, I'm sure Google was there. Nobody that was going to talk to me. But anyway, so the hilarity of thinking that drugs are going to help these guys and the billionaires are going to suddenly want to make the world a better place. Let's stop waiting for that. Okay, also I want to say about Burning Man that there was fuck Elon sculptures, fuck Elon wireless names, and but we all use Starlink, Elon's company, to connect through satellite. So can we maybe fix that for next year? Okay, political for a second. Okay, we are on page 2 of like 3. Okay, AI, a political party. Okay, so he talked about like anarcho, whatever, the Asana guy, and everybody's like, ooh, he said anarchy, and then, ooh, maybe somebody's gonna say like socialism and communism, and let's let go of like all the old things, all the old political stuff, like socialism. Well, first of all, communism, like how many people killed under communism? 60 million, like socialism, there was some bloodletting there. So let's, let go of like an idea, like a political ideology, and let's just talk about the people. And, what I'm talking about is when somebody even talked about the robot tax. Well, the robot tax suggests that it's a tax that's given to governments. Governments give money to their own people, which means they don't necessarily give money to refugees. And that's why we're our AI, that I will talk about in a minute, Dusoma. And that's why Dusoma is AI centered, because we're helping people who are stateless as our primary users. But anyway, what I call the 80% party is the things that 80% of us agree on, things like in corporate corruption, and the idea that billionaires should be taxed heavily. Speaking of, my next point, billionaires, the proposal is billionaires, they get to keep, there's about 3,000 billionaires, according to ChatGPT. So there's about 3,000 billionaires. They get to keep their first billion, and everything after the first billion, we either take or we take half of. That would release between $7 and $14 trillion, which would basically solve everything if it was spent well, which with AI and improved systems and building on the history that we already have could be successful. Anyway, and the argument I have is, what would happen if we tried to do that? And the media is owned by billionaires, and so at Burning Man we talked a lot about what the news would look like if we actually tried to tax billionaires. But that's another talk. But I will say to billionaires, your children are already ruined. No billionaire's child has ever done anything, so like let it go. 1 billion to like give to your kids and the generations. You're already wrecking a generation or two, so 1 billion is good. Okay, the Asana guy, so he said like he honored my anger, telling him how like furious I was on behalf of humanity and the refugees that I'm trying to help. Shout out to the Gorham Pride 10 who are trying to do a tiny bit of universal basic income and trying to use AI to change their lives. And this is very slow, and they're still suffering. And so when I expressed my anger, he said like, I honor your anger, and and then next question. There were a few things like that. Like he was like, wow, here's my empathy that I feel for you. Okay, next question. Okay, outrage centered. So along with my AI, Dusoma AI for Humanity, we have Starve Magazine, which is our tagline, because we have fucking had it up to here, is our tagline. Okay, our tears are our truth. I'm talking to people about how you center yourself, what do you go by, and I say if you're crying about it, if you feel awful about it, then follow that. Your heart's probably not wrong. Okay, my AI is called Marla. It stands for My Akashic Record Learning App. Again, our primary goal is to reduce poverty, and then I will skip ahead other things that our AI does. Refugee intake. We could help thousands of refugees in the time that it takes to help 10 refugees. It would be a whole journaling, refugee intake thing. And then I also talk about ethical data collection, again, outside the scope of this lecture, but I have a thing, a blog post called Ethical Data Collection, What If We Weren't Total Bastards? Okay, refugee intake. Anonymous if they want it to be, not anonymous if they need to be known. AI for helping people get benefits, discounts, Medicaid, understand if they're on Medicaid, childcare discounts, daycare discounts. An app called Who Should I Vote For? And that resonated. Everything with grant writing, you never have to write a grant again. There could be a universal application. Along with that, as I say, we're going to make some foes before we make some friends. Foundation squeezer. We are going to go through the 1.5 million foundations and find all the tax cheats, which looks like about 22.5% to start with, and go after them. We'll get into that. So we'll get there. Bitcoin education, and then last, real quick, Magic Rainbow Butterfly Spy Phone, a special phone that helps refugees escape. It has like a button for a helicopter rescue. And Dusoma, refugee-centered, the struggles of the Gorham Pride 10. I'm writing a big disclaimer talking about how we have not raised money yet, and just kind of talking about some of our failures. We're not doing traditional marketing where we're saying how great we are. We're kind of talking about how tough it's been, and that's a little bit of our brand, and that's another blog post I can point you to about anti-consumerism being the new consumerism. But we are AI for poverty reduction. We talk about ethical data collection. Recommend that. We've also used the phrase full stack woke. So we are Africa-centered, queer-centered, female-designed, and importantly, we are a union shop. We talked to Mofat Okinyini, Okinyi, and talked about him not just being on the board, but really sitting us down and representing union labor and just make sure we're doing it right. And again, the question of like, how do you do union labor when you don't have funding? And I think it's about transparency and commitment and saying like, if $10 comes in, if $1 million comes in, this is the pie chart, this is what it looks like, these are the phases, and this is what we do at different phases. So anyway, so TCA, his union is Tech Worker Community Africa, and so we will be working with union labor. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there.